But what happens when we step beyond the veil of deception and reveal the truth behind the suppression of the divine feminine? In part 1 of this series, we detailed how the Roman Emperor Constantine commissioned the Council of Nicaea, which resulted in the official canon of the Bible. However, the suppression of the female energy is much deeper than a group of misogynistic priests and rabbis who viewed women as property and commodities.
Until the beginning of the Common Era, most civilizations understood and embraced the balance of duality: up and down, left and right, night and day, man and woman. After all, it takes two to create.
When monotheism was introduced, the underlying intention was to offset the balance of the human consciousness. When a person is unbalanced, they're far easier to control and manipulate.
We see a similar method in mind control programs, such as MKUltra, where the purpose is to split the consciousness of the individual in two. And quite frankly, when examining the last 2,000 years, it becomes obvious the human consciousness has been subjected to trauma-based mind control.
This is why, as a humanity, we've been split apart, and we're made to operate solely from the masculine energy and suppress the divine feminine. The traits of the divine masculine include logic, reason, protection, and the acquisition of material goods.
The feminine is the intuition, nurturing, healing, and emotional awareness.
When both elements of our consciousness are working in unison, we live in harmony with each other and with Mother Earth. However, when the masculine is operating solely on its own, the acquisition of material goods and survival becomes consumerism, survival of the fittest, nation building, and parasitic capitalism, to the point of destroying not only each other, but destroying our Mother Earth as well.
If the feminine energy can be wrapped up in a single word, it would be feeling. We must feel what is going on in the world. We must feel each other, and we must feel our Mother Earth. For example, in some Native American cultures, the clan mothers would decide when it was proper for the men to fight, and if disputes warranted the potential loss of life. This ensured that battles among the men were fought for the purpose of settling injustices, rather than greed or materialistic gain.
Now imagine if these principles were applied in modern civilization. Over the last 20 years, we've invaded Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, and many more countries, for the purpose of stealing resources. However, if we were operating from a place of balance with the feminine and masculine, would we still send our children to die for any purpose other than to fight invaders, threatening our sovereignty?
As part of the deintegration from the feminine, modern religion has not only rewritten history, but labeled every other belief system as paganism, which has become synonymous with Satanism. This is why there is so much confusion about the goddess energy, and most people stuck in a religious paradigm are unable to see the literal demonization of the sacred feminine right before their eyes, and many choose to stay willfully ignorant to the signs and symbols that bombard their consciousness daily.
It is important to realize the gods and goddesses of ancient times may not necessarily have been physical beings, but rather they're different elements of our own consciousness and existence. Therefore, when we invoke them collectively, we're manifesting and channeling a very powerful energy. As a matter of fact, Jesus Christ made a reference to this type of invocation in Matthew 18:20, when he said,
"For when 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am in the midst of you."
The church has gone out of its way to merge and then paintbrush all goddesses as Satan in order to keep us disconnected from these parts of ourselves. They have convinced us that spiritual tools like meditation, divination, astrology, and even yoga are all tools of Satan. But many of us understand the spells being cast upon the human consciousness on a daily basis. For example, in recent years, we've been told that a terrorist organization by the name of the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria are lurking around every corner, waiting to attack us for our religious beliefs. the mainstream media has referred to them as ISIS. As a result, ISIS has been injected into the human consciousness as the enemy as we repeat the magic spell: fear ISIS, fight ISIS, destroy ISIS.
In Egyptian mythology, the word Isis refers to a mother goddess, often interchangeable with Hathor. She represents love, compassion, and empathy. The names of the gods and goddesses resonate of frequency and energy. This belief is also held in Judaism and Christianity, which has resulted in large debates on the pronunciation of Jehovah, Yahweh, Yahuwah, Jesus, and Yeshua.
Because the name Isis resonates the energy of motherly love, compassion, and empathy, the world is unknowingly casting the spell to fear motherly love, fight compassion, and destroy empathy when referring to the Islamic State as ISIS.
The goddess Isis is often portrayed with a crown on her head, which is symbolic of the seat of Horus. The Eye of Horus has been labeled as Satan's eye by modern religion. However, the eye is a representation of the human brain, particularly the thalamus, which is known as the seat of consciousness, next to the pineal. Therefore, when we refer to ISIS as a demon or a terrorist organization, we're energetically disconnecting ourselves from our own consciousness, and thus disconnecting ourselves from the seat of our own divinity.
A similar spell was cast during the invasion of Iraq. George W. Bush labeled the first strike as shock and awe. The term was repeated a multitude of times throughout the mainstream media and injected into the human consciousness. As we repeated the term shock and awe, we were actually invoking the Judaic goddess Shekinah, who is also known as Asherah, the estranged wife of Yahweh, according to the Kabbalah.
The Semitic root of the word Shekinah means to settle, inhabit, or dwell. Therefore, the world was invoking the energy of Shekinah in order for the West to settle, inhabit, and dwell in the Middle East. And almost 20 years later, the United States occupies the majority of the region, with Iran seemingly the final target.
Here's an interesting fact. One of the first operations in Iraq was entitled Operation Planet X. Officially, it was a mission to secure an obscure village, supposedly the hideout of mid-level Al-Qaeda members. However, 11 miles away was the Museum of Tikrit, which housed Sumerian and Babylonian artifacts. We'll focus on the esoteric and occult significance of this region in upcoming editions of Beyond the Veil. To stay up to date with our latest videos, be sure to hit that subscribe button now.
Because of the electronic global network, television, internet, and media, the human consciousness can be manipulated in ways like never before. This is why it's more important than ever to fully understand why this knowledge is forbidden and why they suppressed the sacred feminine.
And we assure you, you will not be going to hell for unlocking this gnosis.
As a matter of fact, the concept of hell was merged with Christianity from pagan traditions by Emperor Constantine. When Christians use the name hell, they are actually invoking the Nordic goddess of the underworld, also known as Hel. It was believed that her domain was a place where all souls go, regardless of whether they were righteous or not.
The underworld is a concept known by many cultures. The Greeks referred to this place as Hades. The Egyptians referred to this place as Duat, and in Judaism, this place is called Sheol. Which begs the question, if Judaism is the foundation of Christianity, and the Hebrews are God's chosen people, why don't they believe in the fundamental principles of heaven and hell? When examining the history of modern Christianity, it becomes ever more clear that the concept of hell was created as a system of control.
In the first part of this series, we spoke briefly about the Essenes, a sect of Judaism that practiced spirituality, divination, and balance between the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine. In modern times, they are known as the Gnostics. The word Gnostic is derived from the Greek word gnosis, which means having knowledge of spiritual mysteries. The Gnostics are credited for various writings, including the Gospel of Philip, the Gospel of Thomas, and the Gospel of Mary Magdalene.
According to Dr. Karen King, a Gnostic scholar, fragments of Gnostic writings have been translated, clearly showing Jesus referring to Mary Magdalene as his wife. Like the Gospel of Peace and the Revelation of the Essene, these writings have been viciously attacked by the Church and criticized as an attempt to portray Jesus as an ordinary man rather than the Son of God. But he never claimed to be the Son of God. Instead, he claimed to be the Son of Man.
As previously outlined, one of the main goals of the Council of Nicaea was to settle disputes about the divinity of Jesus. This was heavily due to the widely held belief of the Gnostic understanding of Christ consciousness. The Essenes, aka the Gnostics, believed that through a series of activations and gnosis, all beings could achieve the same state of divinity as Jesus Christ. Rather than being a figure who is separate from us, who came to earth with special godlike powers, the ministry of Jesus was to first overthrow the religious hierarchy, then demonstrate how each one of us can achieve Christ consciousness. Remnants of this understanding can still be found in Constantine's Bible. John 14:12 states, "Most assuredly I say to you, he who believes in me, the works that I do, he will do also, and greater works than these he will do."
Because Constantine aimed to create a state religion, ultimately aimed at controlling the Roman Empire, Jesus Christ had to be portrayed as a perfect being and a virgin sacrifice. As a result, Mary Magdalene was portrayed as a whore rather than his counterpart and the representation of the sacred feminine. After all, if the human consciousness was elevated to the point of Christ consciousness, religion, government, and the economy would all come crumbling down when we realize we're all spiritual beings connected to one another, connected to Source, and connected to our Mother Earth. And to put it bluntly, global awakening just isn't good for business.
However, in recent years, the world is stepping beyond the veil as more and more people wake up and unlock their own divinity and walk the path towards Christ consciousness. As our Mother Earth shifts into a higher dimensional frequency, millions of people are experiencing heightened intuition, abilities of manifestation, and even telepathy.
Likewise, more and more people are walking the true path of Christ by rejecting Constantine's Christianity, as Jesus rejected the religion of the Pharisees. This includes rebalancing the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine, and fully understanding the message in John 8:44.
You are of your father, the devil, and the desires of your father you want to do. He was a murderer from the beginning and doesn't stand in the truth because there is no truth in him. When he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own resources, for he is a liar and the father of it.
But the real question is, who is the father of the Pharisees? Who is the devil? And who is the adversary, aka Lucifer?
We'll answer these questions and more in part 3 of this series. And in the meantime, please share this with someone that needs to hear the message.
And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more insights from Beyond the Veil.